Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jump Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet that's going to be using Microsoft's new Azure cloud streaming system. I'm Will, and joining me this week, Brandon.
I heard that I'm going to use it too, because they're letting everybody use it.
Ills.
So many partnerships, I don't know what to do.
And Moosmil.
I'm more of an Amazon guy, personally. I like to personally hand Jeff Bezos money.
You look him in the eye, because you can trust Jeff.
Yeah, exactly.
That is it. How are we doing this week, boys?
Doing fine. Doing dandy.
I'm very impatient. I'm ready for E3, goddammit. That's all I can think about. E3.
Well, look at that. At the end of this podcast, it will be roughly an hour closer to E3.
Yeah, that's true.
But, before we get there, let's get to some dang old news. Because I want to lead off with this one, because I'll be honest with you, I never like to apologize to Moozamil. I make it a point never to.
Oh, don't do it. Don't, please.
But a couple months ago, we got first blush of this rumor that has happened. And Moose said, we got to talk about this on the podcast. And I said, come on, this thing is a joke. Now, when you might say, why? What was this rumor? Well, it was FromSoftware making a game with George R.R. Martin. And you say, that sounds like an internet fan fiction. But we do have a second source on it now, backing up the claim. A man you may have heard of, not Jason Schreier, a leaker known as George R.R. Martin, posted on his blog.
What the fuck?
Post Game of Thrones, he was like, "Hey guys, don't worry about me. I have a lot of projects." It was like 4 paragraphs, and then just one sentence. He goes, "I've consulted on a game out of Japan," and everyone went, "What? You consulted on a game out of Japan?" And then everyone went, "Wait a minute, there was that FromSoftware rumor." And apparently from there, that, I guess, if there was anyone that would help you feel more encouraged on talking about it, the guy himself saying that it exists probably helps. But, yeah, a bunch of people sort of came out and said, yeah, we've heard that George R.R. Martin thing too, and we didn't believe it because it sounds crazy, but apparently that's real. And so now we have some specifics from Gamatsu and a couple other places. But it is a codename GR. Great Rune is the speculation. A more open world styled, Norse mythology inspired Hidetaka Miyazaki, so the guy who made Dark Souls 1, 3, Bloodborne, and Sekiro, directed game in collaboration with George R.R. Martin that will be at Microsoft's E3 potentially. That's we could see it that early.
Yeah.
Because this game's apparently been in development for 3 years. And this sounds like a Mad Libs article I just wrote, but no, it's real.
Damn, 3 years, he could have been finishing his fucking books.
So to be fair, he did say he was consulting on a game, so I don't...
That's more
he may have showed up
writing.
one day.
Also, this is, I guess, off topic, I'm sorry. But he did say, he's going to be in New Zealand next July, and if he doesn't finish book 6 by then, you legally have permission to put him in house arrest until he finishes that book. So.
Should be scourged and crucified.
Well, the summer 2020.
Well,
Maybe.
Maybe. But either way, this is wild for a bunch of reasons. One, I remember there was people saying, are we going to see a FromSoftware announcement this year? And everyone's like, a couple months ago, everyone's like, no, come on, it's we just had Sekiro. That came out in March.
To be fair, we did have Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, and 3 in quick succession. Those games came out pretty much one after another. Yeah. And then they kind of took a long break between 3 and.
Well, they managed one a year roughly, basically.
Yeah. So I totally believe that they had a second project in the works in this time.
Yeah. But one, I think it's just obviously we'll see how much he actually collaborated. Mm-hmm. But a thing that is cool in A Song of Ice and Fire is that if there's one thing as a writer that he's good at, I think it is mentally just keeping track of so many aspects of this world that he's built and building off of that history and stuff. And in that way, I think FromSoft games share that DNA. You go and you meet a boss called Ceaseless Discharge, and you're like, what is this lava monster, Pizza Man. And then, no, it turns out, if you read up, they in their brain are like, he's here for a specific reason because of his relationship with his sisters and yada yada. And that's all stuff that you don't know, but it can be engaged with if you're willing to plumb the depths of it. And I think that they share that in common. So I think that would be an interesting part of it.
That's funny. Like, what is he consulting on? Like, just backstory, or
I think they said
narrative?
story was just the general thing. I don't think he was.
I would bet he had a helping hand in like creating the world. I guess you could say. Like the lore behind everything, all that stuff, all that kind of stuff.
That's interesting because I mean, FromSoftware is already good at those things.
Yeah.
Why would
but to be fair, I think that FromSoftware, you kind of have to dig into it with. Whereas maybe this time it'll be a little bit more explicit with the
more
whole,
overt.
like,
you think they're going to be more overt this time?
Yeah,
with their narratives.
Well, I wonder because part of the thing too is that apparently it will have a more open world design than Dark Souls, which is very much like area focused.
They call this an open world game straight up.
Yeah,
which is different from FromSoft's usual fare. I think that's like where it's more sectioned off. Like, yeah, it's an interconnected world, but it's like.
But I mean, they've clearly delineated areas, and like you go here, then there most of the time.
And so the rumor specifically says it's open world. There's a handful of kingdoms, and you can go to each kingdom in any order. And then there's also like a Mega Man aspect here, where it's like you go to the kingdom, you beat the boss, you take their power. So that
get equipped with,
and their power is super effective against another guy.
Nice.
I mean, I don't know about that much, but maybe.
Yeah. So, I mean, I am happy this happened. One, I'm a little sad it got leaked by, like, in a more credible way, because, I mean, it's George R. R. Martin, the ones that leaked
this would have been crazy just to not know, and then, like,
Yeah, just imagine FromSoftware, then George R. R. Martin, you're like, what is this? At Microsoft C3, what's happening?
I would literally spit out my drink.
Drip.
Yeah. I mean, it's that time, The other thing about this game that I'm a little curious about.
Wait, why are we saying it leaked if he's the one who said it?
I mean yes.
he didn't like.
He didn't say I'm working with FromSoftware specifically. He just said he's working with a game out of Japan. So there's the potential that it's some other game, but I wouldn't expect it.
Everything clicked right then and there. I was like, oh fuck, which is, I mean, that's wild. So
coming soon, fucking George R. R. Martin's Mario.
Heyo, please be
excited. You guys are all wrong.
I'm curious how a FromSoftware open world game is. Like, is it engaging? Like, is it? That it's something they haven't done before. So this is new for them.
They have been on. People dunk on Dark Souls 2, but like Dark Souls 2 is still like pretty good. And like besides that, they just have. I mean, like Bloodborne, Sekiro's great from the. I'm like halfway through it because I'm slowly plotting my way. And the Dark Souls 1, obviously, look where it is on the list. Like, they're a premier developer, especially in the year 2019.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like they haven't really strayed off of the course of Dark Souls, I would say.
Sekiro is, I would say. But
okay, that's fair, I guess.
Yeah.
It would just be interesting to see, like, a whole, basically a completely new format for them.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting to see how that works out for them. I'm looking forward to seeing whatever the hell this is.
Yeah. It's funny. Norse mythology has suddenly gotten crowded very fast. Because like God of War, when it first did Norse, you're like, all right. I mean, besides 2 Human, what else we got? And now it's like apparently the new Assassin's Creed that's coming in 2020 is going to be Norse mythology. This is going to be Norse mythology probably.
Why would you even mention 2 Human?
It's because I was just trying to think of Norse mythology games before that.
Very slim. That's just to show. It goes to show you.
Yeah.
Like when you got a call on 2 Human, like you're.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, so I think it'll be interesting just to see how this plays out. And and if it doesn't show up at E3, then hey, we can have the conversation of, is this a Star Fox Racing? Did we get tricked again?
But then what is George working on, if not?
Yeah, there's still that looming threat. We know there is a George R. R. Martin game. Wait. What is it?
We know that Geno game's coming, right?
Oh!
That's true.
Oh my god.
Finally, a writer worth his caliber. That character is going to get some justice.
God bless. Oh man. Well, so we'll look forward to that. Maybe at E3, maybe not. I mean, the thing is now, with only Microsoft really being like the multi-platform like multi-party conference, right? Like Nintendo's going to focus mostly on Nintendo. All eyes are on it for these weird, crazy announcements.
Yeah, if you want to show your game on an E3 stage, your option is holding your own, which is not an option for most people. Or showing up at Microsoft's conference. So, though to be fair, with FromSoftware, they do have a history of showing up at Microsoft conferences. Like, I want to say Dark Souls 3 was there. Sekiro definitely was revealed at a Microsoft conference.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
But I speaking of hanging out with Microsoft on their stage, what we alluded to in the first little intro, we got the headline that people made fan fiction up for years. Microsoft and Sony are teaming up together. But maybe not in the way you would expect. So essentially, we got 2 different reports in the course of last week about partnerships that Microsoft is making when it comes to their Azure streaming system, which, as we've talked during the Google stuff and during that whole month where we talked about streaming a whole bunch, is among the biggest in the world, right? It goes sort of Google, Microsoft, Amazon in that order of just infrastructure for streaming to people's households. And so, we asked, what's Sony and Nintendo gonna do? What is, like, they don't have that. They have Gaikai if they're Sony, but what else? And the answer is they're just gonna use Microsoft stuff too. This is early on, we should say, and it's essentially non-binding at this point. So things can fall apart, whatever. But they were saying that essentially the thought is between both companies right now that when the time comes to create PS Now 2 or whatever it is, they'll be using Microsoft's thing, as well as Nintendo, who also said that if they ever were going to make a stride at cloud gaming, Microsoft would be the people they would be partnering with. And people were surprised.
That makes sense. Like, the thing is, Sony and Microsoft, not Microsoft, Sony and Nintendo cannot do this on their own, right?
No.
They do not. They are much smaller companies compared to Microsoft. It makes sense for them to be like, streaming is going to be a big thing, right? It is going to be, it's not going to be the thing, but it's going to be a big thing, right? And Nintendo and Sony don't want to be left behind in that aspect. Microsoft in 2019 is all about, hey, like, our services are kind of for everyone to use, right? Like, that's where we make our money. It's not through, hey, you're using Xbox, but hey, let's get everyone, like, on our services, on our platforms. That's the future for Microsoft as a company, right?
how many different computer makers use Windows as their operating system, right? Like,
exactly. But you're not necessarily buying a Microsoft computer, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of, they're positioning themselves to be in that same space for streaming, and I think that's smart of them.
Yeah,
I think it's good for Nintendo and Sony to you don't want to be left behind in this, and so that's.
And if you want a time frame on this stuff, Sony said that they're expecting streaming games to make up roughly 2% of their, like, overall marketplace in 2021. So, like, they're not expecting this to, like, hey, we're gonna have this thing out and within a year it's gonna be everybody doing it. Like,
no, of course not. Yeah.
They're thinking the long con of 10 years down the line, right? Which is why this is very far off, and you should treat it as such.
And related to the story, Sony had a investor thing, and they kind of mentioned how, like, streaming, pretty much every game they have will be available for streaming next gen.
And they specifically also mentioned using, like, 5G stuff, which is like, well, okay, they're,
that's soon, right? That's like 5G is soon. I think it's interesting. I wonder if streaming for next gen is what digital was for this gen. This thing that kind of, like, slowly takes off, but, like, near the end of the generation, we're just going to see, like, a pretty high percentage of people, using that.
It depends on the quality of it, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure, yes. But it'll be interesting to see, like, where we're at end of next gen, right? Like,
digital stuff got a lot better this gen in general. Of just, like, part of it is that they made physical worse because you have to install all these discs. So the biggest, like, positive of saving disk space was gone now. Was
it all a conspiracy?
Maybe. But
yeah, maybe, who knows?
But yeah, it's like tripled, I think, this gen, like, the digital share of, like, sales.
There's a lot of AAA games these days that sell more digital copies than physical. Like, it's not uncommon at all, which is fascinating.
Well, they're slowly starting to figure out what I've been complaining about all along, which is why are digital games more expensive than physical? And it's slowly starting to shift.
Yeah.
Which is definitely helping because now I'm more apt to do it. I've always said I'm not going to do it until it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you know these Microsoft and Sony have constant sales. Nintendo's doing their voucher stuff. Like it's like
Yeah, and and with stuff like Game Pass,
yeah.
it
Oh
really
yeah,
helps
I mean
too.
Game Pass is a big thing, right? And it's like
So I mean, yeah. So that's stuff like I said. This year's down the line, but one day it'll happen, and we'll all look and say everything changed, but not yet. But speaking of that investor briefing, Sony they had another announcement, which was that they're opening a I forget the specific, but it's essentially a television and movies division to translate their games into those mediums. Now, here's the thing. Think of all the Sony franchises in the world, right? What are the first ones that come to your head in adapting them to a show or a movie?
Uncharted.
Ratchet and Clank already got a shot at it, right?
Ratchet and Clank tried, and it was a bad movie.
Yes, maybe maybe, who knows? They announced one thing. Twisted Metal, the TV show.
I was just going to say Twisted Metal. I was actually going to say that sarcastically.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, sarcastic. That makes more sense. I was like, well, how the hell would you think of?
Yeah. So,
well, like as a horror thing,
yeah.
Sure.
So, like, it is crazy to me that Twisted Metal, the TV series, is the one announced project so far. Yeah.
Well, that makes no sense. Give us a goddamn Twisted Metal game if you're going to do that shit.
It is true. The game was not got one since 2011.
That's implying that there will be a game, you know?
Maybe.
When we got the Ratchet movie, there was a game tie-in, and the game actually ended up being far better than the movie.
Wait a minute, 2011. What was that? Because I feel like the last one I remember is Twisted Metal Black, which was like PS3.
There was the PS3 one that was just called Twisted Metal.
Yeah, not reboot, but it had it just was called Twisted Metal. Yeah.
And
I mildly remember this.
You didn't have a PS3 though, so that
it was
I mean, I do now.
Well, you do now, but like at the time.
Not at the time.
At the time, no.
So I mean, I can't. Twisted Metal to me, doing a car combat TV show sounds really expensive and hard. That looks good. Like, Mad Max Fury Roads exists, and that movie's incredible, but it took 8 years to make, and it had a movie budget, not a TV show budget.
Yeah.
So I don't know what this looks like, unless there's going to be a lot of leaning on cars rather than actually driving said cars.
And what characters do they focus on? I'm guessing Sweet Tooth has to be a major character.
Yeah,
he always is.
But like, is he your main? Like, do you empathize with Sweet Tooth? Like, he's.
I doubt it. I mean, they're all fucking psychopaths, right?
I don't know. You have some regular people in Twisted Metal. You have like the cops.
Yeah, I was about to say like the cops are probably the main characters if we're being honest, right? Like,
fuck, I forgot what the cops do.
Axel's really cool. I always liked him a lot.
Axel's cool, but he's kind of a psychopath too, right?
He's also stuck in in his vehicle forever, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah. I mean, so it'll
maybe Calypso. I mean, Calypso's like the main bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Maybe focus on him.
Mr. Grimm.
I do have a little bit more faith in Sony Pictures after seeing Into the Spider-Verse.
That's a good movie. Yeah.
That's a good
Happy that they already had an example.
But that's my thing. That is
that's the one. You know,
it's the same studio that made Emoji Movie. I mean, think about it.
It's weird. It's weird. If they let creative people be creative, then maybe they'll make good things. But I mean, I don't know. Like, what are other ones like?
Here's the thing: most video game adaptations are garbage. You know, there's like Detective Pikachu finally broke through that barrier. You know, but like that does not mean it is the norm at all.
No. I think that's the case of the directors not really having a handle on the franchise, not giving the love it deserves.
Yeah.
You know, you're not setting the story the correct way.
I don't know. Well, we'll see how this stuff
can be done.
I feel like we're waiting. We're gonna get some CW Infamous show, right?
Now here's the thing about Sony though. They are such a disjointed company. Like, for example, we were talking about that cloud stuff. The guys at SIE, which is the PlayStation.
Oh yeah, this is worth mentioning.
Did not know that their new cloud service was going to be run by Microsoft.
They thought it was. They had been working with Amazon in mind as their service because they had been told think about Amazon, and they found out when the public found out that no, it's Microsoft.
They find out through a press release where everyone else finds out that their parent company signed a deal to have PlayStation games run on Azure, and it's like
they found out the console war was finally canceled.
I just wouldn't be surprised if like these Sony Pictures movies, like they don't have any fucking involvement with the guys over at SIE, you know.
God. I don't know. They're just gonna let them do what they want.
Yeah, because they don't tend to really have any like unifying front. They're just like each branch of Sony is just like their own thing, you know. And it's like that doesn't really inspire the most confidence in this whole PlayStation movie, TV show, entertainment business, you know. Like
this whole thing has reminded me of that one very good tweet where The Rock was like all excited about Rampage, and the movie got decent reviews. So he's like, "It looks like I broke that video game curse. I was in that one really terrible video game movie, Doom." And then Doom's Twitter account just tweets, Dwayne.
It was like, come on, don't be roasting us like this. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Moose said, with the way that Sony's run, like, for better or for worse, like, because if you look at the last couple of years, the PlayStation division's been doing really well, and everything else has been a dumpster fire, right? And, like, the times where they do team up, it's like, remember last gen during E3 where they're like, 3D gaming on your TV is the future. Buy the PlayStation TV, and that was none of SIE, that was all big, you know, overhead Sony saying, you need to do this. You need to.
I forgot that was a thing.
And you wonder how much of this, like, Sony, like the parent company, is gonna push at SIE to be like, hey, like, talk about this shit, you know? You wonder about that. I was gonna say, hey, I hope we don't see this stuff at E3, but Sony's not at E3 anyway. So.
Yeah, it's true.
Yay.
So, bullet dodge. But, yeah, so we'll see where that goes, but I thought it was just such a weird announcement. This is a weird one, mostly because, like, it is, I'm surprised it honestly took this story this long to happen, but we had, I have to say his name again, Jason Schreier report.
Oh God.
I know.
Sick of this. But sick of this, you know?
He's sick of him. Well, he's out there, he's working every day. It would be a harder podcast for me if he didn't. But he had a report, and bear with us, about the Call of Duty video games. Now, the weird thing is, if you have followed anything about Call of Duty, you know the cycle. The way that Call of Duty is able to come out every year and be not disasters, right? Like, Call of Duty's really never been, like, broken. It's kind of a miracle, all things considered, because they have 3 different development teams working on them, which is Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and a mix of Raven and Sledgehammer games. And all of them, because of that, get a 3-year cycle, because they all take turns. We talked last year on this podcast about how Treyarch was having problems with Black Ops 4, because for a long time they had the cycle of, okay, single player, multiplayer, zombies for their games. That was what they always did. And they say, hey, add this Battle Royale mode on top. And suddenly they're like, oh, we don't know what to do. Like we're not hitting our marks. We're going to cut the single player mode. Apparently, even worse things have been going on at Sledgehammer and at Raven, because it was, according to Schreier's report, the 2020 Call of Duty game was straight up just taken from them, saying, you guys are such a disaster, you're not going to be able to finish this. Treyarch is doing this. Which you may remember, they put out last year's Call of Duty, so that means now they have a 2-year cycle. Apparently, the game was going to be set in the Cold War, which is one of the only time frames Call of Duty has not hit yet. They kind of did in Black Ops.
Really a war.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was wondering. Like they in Black Ops, they had like the subterfuge thing, and I think they're probably gonna go with a similar thing for whatever this would be. But either way, like, it's now this thing where now that means Treyarch's on a 2-year cycle. That's gonna be a weird thing. Infinity Ward's games are the ones that do poorly now because the people that were heading up that studio left to make Titanfall and all the other stuff at EA. And
I thought at one point they were on a 2-year cycle. They just kept going between Infinity Ward and
they did last gen.
So they added last gen, they did, and then they added Sledgehammer into the mix starting with,
for this gen. With Modern Warfare 3 was where they started to bring it. Yeah.
It shows how much. I mean, I don't really play these games, so I didn't know that. But I did know they were on at least a 2 developer.
Yeah. Well, so now they're going. It seems like they're going back to a 2-year cycle, which is like
which in this gen is way harder.
I mean, considering the fact that game development is just harder than ever before, right?
Yeah.
And then number 2, Treyarch just had to cut a major feature out of their game in Black Ops 4. That game's development was a mess, and now you're telling them, hey, you have 1 less year to make your next game than that you had for Black Ops 4. And it's like, oh, okay, all right.
And it'll probably be on next
Infinity
year.
Ward too, because Infinity Ward now has to come out with the game in 2 years from this year, right? Because 1 year has been cut from the cycle. And it's like,
Do they have to?
Well,
Call of Duty
I was
take a
gonna
year off?
bring this up, right? Because we talked about Assassin's Creed taking a year off and how much it helped that series.
it did
right?
wonders for that franchise. Just taking a single year off did wonders for that franchise.
But
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna buff up Ubisoft here again, like we did last week. But that's because Ubisoft had a bunch of other franchises and releases.
yes.
Fucking shills.
I know Activision has nothing besides Call of Duty right now,
Nope.
right? Like Destiny was supposed to be the thing that was going to replace Call of Duty as their big new thing. They just let Destiny go 2 months ago, right? Like Skylanders has dropped off. That was helping them in the start of this generation. Like, you know,
I imagine WoW Classic is going to give them a boost, right?
they'll be, yeah. I mean, Blizzard is helping them. That is fair. Yeah, that'll give them a boost. We'll it's still yet to see how much.
But then Blizzard's having their own issues these days, right?
Yeah.
Like I just a couple months back on this podcast, we talked about how Activision is forcing Blizzard to cut development cycles, put out games faster, can any of these things like they canned their MOBA game. They completely canned that.
Heroes of the
right?
Storm. Yeah.
Yeah, and Blizzard notably has had like long development cycles, right?
Yeah.
Just throughout their history. That's just how they operate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But now Activision wants them to hurry it up, right? And so like Blizzard's their own mess. The Activision side relies on such few mega hits. Just one of them being gone, let alone two. Now that with Destiny and Call of Duty, it's like what's left for them? Like Crash and Spyro have been doing great, but like they're not Call of Duty numbers, right?
Yeah.
It's
So,
like,
so they're almost in this situation that was way more tenuous than it looks. But the minute that one pillar crumbles, they're on very shaky ground. Which is why taking a year off of Call of Duty is way harder than taking off a year of Assassin's Creed.
yeah, because then that one fiscal year, investors are gonna just hammer them. Good chance they fire what's his name?
Kotick.
Bobby Kotick.
Yeah, I mean, because this is his strategy. He said 10 years ago, he's like,
Yeah.
we will have one huge franchise or two huge franchises, and we'll just keep finding new ones. The minute that Guitar Hero burns out, we'll find another one, and they did
for a while, right?
For a
Like
while.
They had Skylanders, they had a lot of big
Yeah.
hits, but then Call of Duty was just this constant thing.
Yeah, they had they owned Crash Bandicoot and Spyro still.
Yeah.
And Crash and Spyro, to be fair, have been doing huge numbers, right? Like we know that the
Yeah.
Insane Trilogy did over 10 million copies, right?
They published
Jesus, really?
Sekiro too.
They did, and Sekiro did above
they
their
did.
expectations.
But I think Sekiro is like a very lower end for Activision, right? Like
Yeah.
2 million is nothing to
Well, it's
Activision.
time to bring back True Crime.
But-
Let's bring it back.
Heyo.
But see, then the problem with Crash and Spyro is, yeah, sure, they're doing like 10 million units, but like, they're selling for $40, so $20 off of each copy, less that they're earning, right? And they don't have a DLC trail. They don't have a microtransaction trail that they can monetize through that, which is how they make a lot of money, right?
Mhm.
So it's like,
Mhm.
I mean, no matter how you slice it, if you take a year off Call of Duty, you're making significantly less money.
Yeah.
You know?
But so I mean,
Maybe if they still made Vigilante 8.
And like to us,
You're
it
right.
seems very easy to say,
How do
"Hey,
you
take a
remember
year
this?
off, and then your long-term health will be better for it." Right?
Mm.
But investors are not always that.
they're looking for next week, brother. They're not looking.
Yeah.
They you know what? It's the investors that really ruined
Yes,
it.
I mean 100%. Yes, capitalism.
I gotta bring back the Tony Hawk series.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how that goes. Maybe it'll turn out to be incredible. Maybe, but there's cracks in the foundation that aren't great. But speaking of publishers, I think that are in a weird situation right now. Let's get into some E3 previews. Right.
Yes.
We are 3 weeks away, so we're gonna do sort of a fast run through of the third parties this week because we have to do multiple. The next week we'll do Microsoft, then the week after we'll do Nintendo. But to start this week off, let's do chronologically, I suppose, and start with Bethesda because they are still doing this E3 conference. Why? I'm not sure.
What are they going to even talk
I know.
about? They're just, I don't know.
So
Doom Eternal.
yeah, I mean, because let's first lay out that right. They right now have Doom Eternal announced. They have Wolfenstein Youngblood, which is coming out in late June, so it'll be very close to E3. And then they just had Rage 2 come out like a week ago. But besides that, we don't know much. I mean, they have Starfield and Elder Scrolls both announced, but they said they are years off and are both next
those
gen.
are wicked far away. So, like, I feel like they might mention them, but they probably don't have anything to show.
I would have to.
They definitely don't. Right? They said, "Hey, these games are far off last year." I highly doubt those games will be here this year.
But Bethesda is a company that, like, is sort of hunting for a hit right now. Like a lot of their games have actually reviewed decently well. Some of them have not, but like none of them have been big financial successes, right? Dishonored 1 and Dishonored 2 was a big step down in terms of sales. Rage 2, we've heard, is a big step down in terms of sales. Evil Within 2 didn't do well. But then sort of Wolfenstein 2 was a big step down from the first year, right? But then the big one is at least they always had Bethesda Game Studios game, which you might remember they had one last year named Fallout 76.
No way.
Yeah. Which they, I don't know if they'll even mention on stage this year at E3.
They won't. They absolutely will not. People say, oh, they're totally going to joke about it, right? No, they won't. They can joke about the other games because those are successes and people like those games. People don't like Fallout 76. They're not going to even, like, touch that.
If Todd Howard's like, I've heard on the internet that we have some bugs, I'm going to be furious.
Someone is going to shoot him on stage. He does that.
Good lord.
So it's like...
Advocating violence.
Good lord. Don't do that.
I'm not advocating.
Don't do that. People are going to be mad is what we're saying.
Advocating.
It's a guarantee. No, I'm telling you.
Oh, God. So either way...
Muzzy's going to be holding the gun.
Oh, no.
Now it sounds like a threat. No?
This is on the police record right now. But yeah, so like, the thing is, all their teams are like accounted for. Like, there's no like,
the thing.
Dishonored is the only team that we don't really haven't heard from.
No, because Arcane Studios is working on Wolfenstein Youngblood.
You're right. So yeah, so everyone's accounted for. I don't know what they're gonna announce.
At most, you have Tango Softworks. Maybe they are able to put out a game next year. That would be a 3-year cycle for them. So I could see them announcing a game this year. But like, Tango Softworks is it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like Elder Scrolls Online expansion, which who gives a shit?
Yeah. Fucking big.
I mean, people care about that game, but
apparently even like the mobile game for Elder Scrolls sucks, and it's like it's a mobile.
I mean that has been a mess so far. The beta, there's been an open beta. It's people have.
Wait, you're shocked that a mobile game sucks?
No. Let's not do that, okay? Because like there.
I'll do that all day.
Elder Scrolls on mobile, even if it's not for us, could have been a big hit, right? I think it's fair to say that. And it's not. It's not been a hit.
Yeah. Well, people will download anything if it's free.
I mean, but the thing is, it's not working for Elder Scrolls Blades. It's not working for that game.
Yeah,
is that game free?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have microtransactions?
Yes.
Well, I think maybe people are smartening it up. Finally.
Okay. No. All right. I don't want to have this conversation. Okay.
That's never true.
But
anyway, I don't see. I feel like Bethesda's holding a press conference because they feel they have to hold a press conference because they have for the last 4 years.
Like they're just saving their time slot, basically.
This is the trap that EA fell into for many years.
Yes.
This year, EA wisened up and realized we don't have the content for a press conference. It's funny, though, because this year they actually have more content than they had the last couple of years, but that aside.
Which, by the way, EA has actually announced a bunch of their time frames for games. So, for example, if you want to see the new Star Wars game, June 9th, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Show up. I love that.
Thank God. Thank you, EA, for this. Do this every year, please.
Do this every year. This is perfect for EA. Just do like, hey, we're just doing streams. Because it's all about the gameplay, right? So we don't have any bullshit fluff that we always do in these press conferences, right? And we know when to show up. Hey, I'm here for Star Wars, and that's all I care about from your lineup. So, that's the time I'm showing up,
Mm-hmm.
I still like to imagine they're like, we just have to have some sports guy. Get Ronaldo on stage with a controller to play Star Wars. We gotta have him.
Where does that leave, any surprise? I'm not saying EA is not. Probably won't do this, but what if a company wanted to do a surprise? You can't be like, show up here for this game.
No. I'm saying for when you have the content, go ahead and do a press conference. But I feel like it's pretty clear this year Bethesda does not have the content to hold a press conference.
Like, imagine instead they said you're going to get 30 minutes of a Doom Eternal live stream. Just come watch
that. Would make so much more sense because that's the only game they have worth talking about, right? And then they could have their own stream for people who are tuning in for Elder Scrolls Online. They can have their own stream for
the Elder Scrolls card game that they have also.
Yeah. But I don't know.
I'm just gonna be there for the memes, alright?
Yeah, I guess
they'll get Enter WK back again this year, why not?
I don't like when these companies feel the need to have a press conference, I guess. Which is hypocritical from me because I'm angry that Sony's not having a conference. But
I know.
Nice.
But speaking of, I guess we're gonna break the chronological order because I want to make this transition. Speaking of feeling that they had to have a press conference, Square Enix is
God bless.
on stage or having a direct. We don't know specifically.
We don't know. We have no idea.
We
They
just
said
have-
okay. So the wording they said live from LA, but that could mean anything. To be honest, I don't know. Like
They could have a guy standing in front of a building in LA that's pre-recorded and say, "Here you go." But I mean,
Would it be live then?
well, maybe when they filmed it, it was live.
But last year they called it Square Enix. They said live, some bullshit about it being live last year, and it was a pre-recorded video.
Oh,
So,
yeah. And that was
don't
not
know.
a good show last year.
Last year was not a good show, but
This
to
year,
be fair, this year they maybe have the content.
they have the big one.
big one.
They have laid it out. We're gonna see more Final Fantasy VII remake. Right?
Yes.
They gotta show Tifa. Come on, it's fine.
They gotta show
It's
Tifa.
time.
Wow. They erased Tifa.
I mean,
There's
FF7
no reason
remake-
why I would play that game.
that is a
Garbage
big
character.
deal. You know, no pun intended about Tifa. But
Damn.
I mean, this game is massive, and I'm excited to see it. I think people will be tuning into this conference just to watch FF7 remake. You know,
Yeah.
So like, but what else could they have
Well, I feel like I've said this 1,000 times.
for the last 7 conferences?
Avengers game. We've literally made it to the end of the MCU, like as we know it for the time being. They announced this when Age of Ultron was coming out. We still have not
really?
seen anything.
Holy shit.
It's been announced for a while, yeah.
God.
So I mean, sure.
And the thing is, like, Crystal Dynamics has not worked on a game since the second Tomb Raider game. They didn't
Yes.
do the third Tomb Raider game. This is
No.
the game they've been working on since they finished Rise of the Tomb Raider. You know,
Yeah.
back in what 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't do the third Tomb Raider?
No,
No.
that was the
Oh.
the Deus Ex guys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, props to them because they did a good job. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
game.
All right.
Well, we get
Yeah.
into
But
the
we
Kingdom
have to
Hearts
see the
3
Avengers
cycle.
game, right? Like, we have to see the Avengers game. This is it. Like, Jesus Christ, Square. You're doing a big press conference. People are going to tune in for this press conference because of FF7. This is the time to do Avengers.
You're clearly willing to show a game that you will then cancel and reboot because you're showing off FF7 again. Just do it.
And
No.
they promised we would get info on this game in 2018. We are now in the 17th month of 2018. So, you know, it's about time,
2018.
Square.
Damn, he made the joke again.
Yes, I did
He
make
went back to the well.
But there we go. So that, and then I guess the other thing that we know will probably happen is they sold a season pass for Kingdom Hearts. We gotta see what that season pass entails.
Yeah, no more straight up said there's going to be DLC. So we have to see that at E3. I think there's some other things we could see, though. Like Babylon's Fall.
yes, they
We
got
know
announced
nothing
last
about
year's
that game.
E3. That's Platinum
We
Games.
literally got a CG trailer with 4 people, told us nothing about that game. All we know is Platinum Games is working on it, and I guess it's 4 players, but even that's unclear, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's happening. There's always the potential for a Quiet Man. We walked in last E3 innocent children, did not know what the Quiet Man was.
No. It
Now
didn't
we
look
look
like
at
a
the
dumpster
postman.
fire last E3, to be fair. And
Huh.
then...
Wait, I thought that game came out already.
It
It
did,
came
but
out.
I'm saying
No,
that,
no.
you know, they announced that game and then it was out that October.
Who knows what kind of game... did they finish Life is Strange yet? Is that
No, that's
done?
still going, baby.
Okay.
Life is Strange 2 is still
Yeah,
going.
so I think Life is Strange. So, you know, they could shadow drop episode... What are we on? 3? 4?
4?
Episode 3 is out.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
4 would be
So they
next,
can
yeah.
maybe they shadow drop in episode 4? Maybe?
Honestly,
Yeah.
it needs the marketing. Help it out. Give
Man.
it some love.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was playing that game recently on Game Pass. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And like, you know, this is the most eyes Square Enix will ever have on a press conference, right? Because A, they're taking Sony's spot, right? And B, FF7 is there. So,
Yeah.
like, you know, great marketing for goddamn Life is Strange 2, right?
Yeah.
I'm hoping we see Yoko Taro's next game.
He's still there. Nier Automata's 2017.
Nier Automata, they just announced 4 million copies sold of that game.
Crazy.
Right? So, you know, maybe.
So those. Besides that, I don't know. Square's English divisions have been in a weird spot, so I don't know what'll.
Tell you what, we
happen with
won't
that.
see Dragon Quest 11 because they don't like to show things that Nintendo publishes for some reason. It's very weird.
It's true. We didn't get Octopath last year either, right?
I'm not gonna to it list.
But yeah, so there we go. But so that'll be Square. That'll be fun though. And then the last of the ones. Actually, I guess we'll do one more after. But we got Ubisoft. We talked about this last week. The 3 unannounced mysterious games, right?
Yeah.
But besides that, they still have Beyond Good and Evil 2 to show off, potentially in perpetuity. Maybe we'll see.
I
What
mean, I think it'll be an early-ish next-gen game. Not early, but early-ish, you know.
Yeah. And then, it's weird because we talked about how Ubisoft has been very good at supporting their games post-launch last week, but that then also does mean that, like, I have no idea how much of, like, the Rainbow Six team, Siege, has, like, just been working on that game, or is there a sequel in the works? Who knows?
But see, like, we thought that about Ghost Recon Wildlands, but here they are. They're coming out with a sequel coming out this October. You know, so... And
I mean, we always have the constant in our lives, which is our good friend Just Dance, and the panda that dances to open every single conference.
For some reason, when you started that sentence, I just thought disappointment.
No, that too. Also a good answer. The panda represents
disappointment. I feel like Ubisoft tends to have good conferences. I don't know. They're not like amazing ever, but like I have a good time.
They're generally well.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
You know.
They just
like EA. That's terrible, but Ubisoft.
And I guess we're gonna see more of the Division 2 because that still came out earlier this year and a few other things. And
then we could just see something wild, like Like they do stuff like Trials. They do stuff like
baby.
The Crew.
We just got
one in 2019.
So. Yeah. And no, I'm not saying literally those franchises. I'm just saying like
smaller titles they can try.
Yeah, they got a bunch of stuff.
They got a bunch of stuff. And there's been a lot of surveys in the last like couple months sent out to players about, hey, what do you want in a Mario plus Rabbids 2?
Less Rabbids.
More Rabbids.
I feel like I don't know. I'm feeling pretty confident that we see the sequel to that game this year.
Yeah, as long as it's Mario versus Rabbids 2, and if they call it 2, that's not a prequel. You fucking
Beyond Good and Evil.
I was waiting when I said Beyond Good and Evil. I thought, well, Brandon invoked the prequel.
It's
hard.
You know,
I can't not. It pisses me off.
In those Mario Rabbids surveys, part of it was, what would you like to see? And one of the options was, would you like to see a battle royale in Mario Rabbids 2?
Okay.
Okay. 11 rabbits jump on an airplane.
I don't see the point of that, but I mean...
I don't know how that's going to work, but...
That is a strategy game. I don't know what they're talking about.
There's a distinct possibility that it is in this game, because when Ubisoft puts out these surveys, usually we end up getting everything in that survey.
Yeah, I mean, it was... The way that they spoiled basically every Far Cry game for like 5 years was whatever was in the survey would be the expansions.
Hey, what do you think about this setting? You know? And
that's how we got Primal, I think it was, because that won the survey.
Is that how we got that fucking wild, crazy 80s game?
Yes. Blood Dragon. That we won. That's 100%. They did a survey of what do you want, and that won.
Oh. So yeah, Battle Royale and Mario Rabbids 2.
We'll see.
To it.
Well, if they're just gonna do it anyway, why the fuck do they even ask?
You doubted Tetris, and it proved you wrong. So
it's
now
true.
Everything has to be a Battle Royale.
You're not wrong.
That's a valid point, actually.
Turn-based strategy Battle Royale.
You know, there's nothing saying Battle Royale games have to be shooters. You know? There's nothing to say that.
Nope.
And then I guess the last one we'll briefly mention, mostly to prepare yourself. We have the PC Gaming Showcase. This has been going for 4 years now. Is always before, when it was like a full Tuesday was, there was like 4 conferences in the day. It was always this nice little breather. Day 9's the host. He does a great job, and they show off a bunch of weird little, somewhat smaller PC games, and that was cool.
This year though,
they got a new sponsor. Before it was always PC Gaming Magazine. Now, my friends, brought to you by the Epic Game Store. PC Gaming Showcase. People on the internet gonna be mad about this one because everything's gonna be exclusive.
Yeah.
So like at GDC a couple months back, Epic just had this long list of like, hey, every fucking game you are looking forward to, it's on the Epic Game Store exclusively. So I am expecting the same thing here. I feel like we're gonna see some like games that PC gamers are very much looking forward to. They're gonna slap an Epic Games logo on there, and people are gonna be pissed.
There's almost always
just fucking riot. It's time.
They're
throwing out too many money hats. You got a money hat here, a money hat there.
I mean, it is to the point where if you are interested in new games for your personal computer, you need to have the Epic Games Store. There's no way around it. There's no way around it.
It went from remember, it was literally just the Game Awards where we were like, man, this is pretty neat. Like 5 exclusive games, that's pretty cool. And now it's like, oh my god, it's everything.
I mean, because like GDC was already a huge indicator that for one, Epic is very knowledgeable in, hey, what is the PC crowd interested in? And it goes from big to small, right? It's not just stuff like the Division and Ubisoft games, but it's also things like the next game from the Hyperlight Drifter guy, you know?
Yeah.
John Wick
Hades.
Hex is an Epic Games exclusive,
Yeah.
you know?
Hades.
It's like, exactly, you know? So they are pretty acutely aware. Like, I think, what is it called? Spellbook. There's a Battle Royale,
Spellbook. Spellbound. Spell something.
One of those.
Spellbrook.
But both of those Witch games, the one that's Stardew Valley-esque, that's also Epic Games exclusive.
What?
So,
I didn't know that. Ah! They got me.
so,
Will's joining the riot.
it's like, you know, they are. I feel like they're actually pretty smart about, hey, what are people looking forward to? And we're gonna lock it down.
I
you
feel
know?
like every year they have one beloved remaster of the piece of gaming show. I remember last year, so it was like Age of Empires 2 or something.
Mhm.
But whenever that happens this year, and that's exclusive to Epic Games Store, that will be an experience.
Oh god, people are gonna riot. People are gonna riot.
But that'll be fine.
And I'm gonna laugh.
Yeah, laugh as Rome burns. So that'll be there. But that is the sort of big boys that are having conferences this year for the third parties. Look forward to them. You know, a lot of times people make the first parties the main events, but what was it, 2012? 2012 was the year that everyone's like, man, Ubisoft had maybe the best conference.
Ubisoft won in 2012. Yes, that is the thing that happened.
And so, you know, there's always that chance. But anyways, going onwards, we'll see those in a couple weeks. Potential game announcements that we will enjoy and will play. But for now, we will look back on the games that we have enjoyed or not on the list.
The list.
The list?
Follow along in the paste bin below.
Yes.
Oh, thank
No
you.
problem.
I forgot we were gonna do the list, to be honest.
We were like wrapping it up. We're feeling pretty good about it.
How?
Will was like signifying that we were about to end the podcast, to be honest. Like,
This
he was
is
doing
what we
that-
do at the end.
No, but like he was making it sound like we were wrapping up. Like I was ready to hear him say, "Oh, Brandon, while
Dog,
you
this
get
is
the
like
final
episode
word."
68. we do it every episode.
Fuck. Not even. This is episode 100.
There is a certain cadence in my voice that lulled Moose Mill into a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Just like he
This
lulled
is-
me into a false sense of security last week when he added Cuphead, which made it high on the list, number 16.
Yeah.
Good showing for it, to be honest.
A lot of good transitions from Will in this 15-minute segment right here.
That's true. But here we go. Now it's
Well, you know,
Brandon.
speaking of lulling people into a false sense of security,
Here we go.
Brandon, you're going to do that to me this week.
The other host.
I'm gonna do it to you, Will, because it's my turn, and I alluded to you. Oh, I was thinking about a game, and I told you that's not the game. I changed. my mind.
Oh.
Oh. But I was thinking, I was taking a shower this morning, and it just popped into my head. I love thinking about video games in the shower, like most men.
Of course.
And
And women.
And women.
and
You're right.
women
Damn.
and women.
And all those between.
Well, you know, I'm sorry. Men take a lot of showers. Right? We don't really take baths.
I don't know where this is going.
Can we talk about the game?
What's the game?
Anyway, so while taking a shower, I'm thinking about video games. I'm thinking about a game that actually just recently came out on the Nintendo Switch, and I just thought, you know what? Time to add this game to the list. It's a game that's been released on just about every single fucking platform ever of all time. And that game is Resident Evil 4.
Oh,
Fuck.
no, Jimbo.
I knew he was going to say it.
He did it.
Resident Evil 4, baby. Originally released on the Nintendo GameCube, was supposed to be a GameCube exclusive. We all know that was a
Shinji
lie.
Mikami
Because
said,
now it's on.
He said, if it's on another platform, I will chainsaw my own head off.
He said it. He did.
Now he's a headless man.
And they made they made jokes about it though in later Capcom games. But yeah, he did say that. And then like one fucking year later, it was on the PS2.
Nowadays, it's
So,
on
yeah.
every platform known to man.
It's on everything, dude. You could play it on the Zebo. All right,
Play it on the
you don't even
Playdate.
know what that is.
All right.
But Resident Evil 4 is one of the premier action, just third-person shooters of all time. Everybody knows Resident Evil. And Resident Evil 4 is the one that took the series into a new direction. The Resident Evil games prior were all your tank controls, your
Asymmetric.
isometric view, with the pre-rendered backgrounds. This put you behind, over the shoulder, third-person view to Mr. Leon Kennedy, who is now working for the U.S. government.
Secret Service.
It's his mission to save the president's daughter.
An adaptation of the Disney film My Date with the President's Daughter.
What?
That movie have Sinbad?
Go ahead. Yeah, sure. Anyways.
I don't know. But yeah, you play as Leon, and he's in a European country.
It's like Spain, I think.
I think it's a fake country.
I think it's
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he's definitely in a kind of a place like Spain, because Los Plagas.
Yes, Las Plagas.
I think is the name of the name of the disease there. And it's not your standard you don't have your standard zombies, but you have people who are infected by a parasite. Who in a way become zombies, but they're a little bit smarter. They know how to use weapons.
They work in groups.
They're a little bit faster. But this game has you fighting through them and bosses and just trying to get Ashley, who's the president's daughter, out of that place safely and return her home.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I love this game.
It's great.
It's
Fucking
very
phenomenal.
good. It's
Holy shit.
one of my favorite games of all time.
I think I beat this game like 5 times.
Yeah, I beat it a lot when it came out. It's very replayable. And it's just fun. It is just fun to play. You can see why it's been released on so many platforms. I know Capcom does it. That's what they love to do, is just re-release shit. But this game deserves it. It deserves to be played by as many people as possible, because it is just a blast to play.
It mastered laser point shooting. Fucking awesome.
Yes.
Like, you could hit anywhere in the person's body, they'll react in a certain way.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yep.
I've not played this game, but I've heard like the
God.
places this game takes you is just insane. It just takes you for a ride.
Definitely does.
It
But
does.
The amazing thing though is that it doesn't like feel like it's herky jerky though. Like, it's one of those things where you look and you're like, man, they like transition from this weird village to this castle to this like lab, but there was never like,
It's all seamless.
yeah, it flows very well.
Yeah. It does. And the characters that you meet are very memorable. You have Salazar, you have
Luis.
what's
Luis?
the little Luis. You meet some really interesting characters throughout the way. You fight bosses that are really fun. You have the giant El Gigante.
Love that wolf. My best friend.
You save a wolf, and if you save him, he comes and helps you. You fight like giant bugs. You fight that one giant man, the tall villager guy in the shed. And there's just a lot of really cool set pieces. Yeah, chainsaw men, lots of just insane stuff. And even like one thing that just really sticks with me, and I think it sticks with anybody who plays this game, is just the opening, right?
That village.
Where you get to that village and you're like, okay, these people are weird, but then you find out real quick that they are insane and trying to kill you. And fighting your way through there at the beginning of the game, where you really have low resources and you're just trying to survive, it's fun, it's terrifying. And then you get to that one amazing scene where the fucking bell rings and they all like, oh, time to go. So they walk away and just, Leon, where's everybody going? Bingo?
Yeah.
And then there's your title. There's your title, Resident Evil 4. It's the most amazing opening to a game I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really good, and it shows like all the group dynamics that the enemies have. Like, they come at you in different ways, in different directions. It's really like fantastic.
Yeah, and the cool, climbing a ladder and kicking it over to try to like
slow him down.
Slow him down and boarding up windows.
It's really good, right?
It's
like
fun.
There's so many places to hide and move around to get away from the enemies. Like, there's like zip lines and like fucking ladders everywhere.
Yeah, you can do melee attacks to push them back and even kick them off ledges.
And that thing of like, if you hit different body parts, like you said, they respawn, but also you can do different attacks on them, and like it gets into like action movie stuff of like he's suplexing a zombie, but also he's suplexing a zombie. That's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And also, if later on when you're fighting the regular Las Plagas guys, like, you're not supposed to shoot them in the head, because if you do, they'll burst into like this huge column fucking bug neck thing.
Yeah.
And if it touches
it'll become more dangerous.
And if it touches you,
because that thing can bite your head off. Yeah.
So it kind of like plays with your expectations like that. It's pretty. Yeah. It's pretty dope.
Yeah. There's different enemies that have, and when you get to the end, you have those really creepy guys where you have to use the laser pointer to shoot at their weak spots.
Oh my god, those guys are so cool.
Oh, they're so cool. They're terrifying.
They are terrifying.
Too.
That's the part, because Resident Evil 4 does pull back on the horror side of it a little bit more, like because you just are more well equipped. But that's the part where you're like, nope, this is still scary, still scared.
Yeah,
it's still scary because they use visual horror to really terrify.
It balances it really well, like the action and the horror.
Yes. And I get, the people's criticisms of, Resident Evil 4 started the downfall of Resident Evil. Well, Resident Evil 4 found the perfect balance to me. To me, this, and this is my opinion, I know, but this is the best Resident Evil.
I mean, so that's what I was going to ask, right? Because, from what I can tell, this is because the Resident Evil franchise takes very different turns throughout its franchise, right? But, this is, I would say, the defining game for Resident Evil, right? This is...
To me. Definitely.
It's my favorite.
And like you said, bridges that balance between, the action side, but also, the horror side. Also just being an amazing game, right? And I would say this is in the running for, one of the best games of that generation, right? If not the best game of the GameCube generation.
Yeah.
So it's
and not to mention,
even when this game came out in 2004, this game's 15 years old. It looks fucking amazing.
It looks good. Yeah. It's a good looking game.
Because this is one that I did not play when it first came out because I was 11. So when I played it in 2011 or whatever, 5 years later, I felt none of the age on it at all. It still felt like a new game. I had a great time.
Where do you want to
wait, first I just want to mention the Mercenaries mode. Oh my god, it's so good.
That became a staple. And because it
became its own game.
Where did they even come up with this shit? It was so fucking good in that one.
Yeah.
I think it was the best iteration of Mercenaries. Oh man.
Yeah.
So you just play as different characters from the series. Even enemies. Yep. Oh man. It gives you such an appreciation of the fighting in that game.
Yeah, and that's the thing where I hear one of the small criticisms of this game is, the controls are still kind of tanky. But while that's, I guess, a fair criticism, I think the game was built 100%. Around it so well that it doesn't really matter.
No, I don't.
It was a design choice. It's not an age thing, right?
It's a design choice, and then the game itself, the gameplay was built around the fact that that's how you control. So it never felt it's kind of tanky. The enemies can move so fluidly. I feel like it's unbalanced. No, it doesn't. The game was built around.
Yeah, it's a little bit tanky, but you never feel hindered by the controls. At least I didn't.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, because you have to stop completely to aim and shoot, right? But the game is built around that fact. It knows that you have to do that, so it never feels unfair.
And it also, that's how the horror element's not entirely removed when you look at just a normal zombie. It's because you have to look him in the eyes and aim to fire to take him out. You can't just keep rolling to get away.
Right.
Yeah.
So
all that being said, man, looking at the list, call me a crazy person, but this is how I feel. I'm gonna tell you my opinion. I want it at number 5.
Oh baby, it should be in that range for sure.
I
haven't played it, so obviously I don't have a voice here.
I want it at number 4.
I want it at number 6. So here's the fun thing.
So we have 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6. Now we have the battle of one spot. Basically.
Oh my god.
How to settle
this? It's gonna take forever.
So is it fair if I play judge here? Is it a
moderator? Yeah, something like that.
I don't know how we go about this though.
So here's my thing.
Here's the thing.
I mean, once again, we're in this weird spot of looking at it. I think if you get it above this, then I'm fine with it being above. If we get it above Final Fantasy VII, I'm fine with it being above Odyssey. But I think I do prefer 7 over Resident Evil 4. But
see, with me not having played 7, I have no opinion on it. So instantly, I'm like, I'll put it above 7.
Yeah. Here's the thing about 7. Narratively, there are some lulls in the game. As soon as you leave Midgar, it's a big lull. For a while. But this game never really lets up. Resident Evil 4 never really lets up. I mean, it's constantly quality action. You're always getting into some shit.
I know some people have issues with like the very tail end of the game. Right, with the final boss and sort of when you get out of the lab and it comes more into like the I don't want to spoil too much because Moose hasn't played it, but that's like 10%, I think. And I can see it because I do think that like the game does not end on the strongest note. Like in some ways, I think it like really peaks at the village and like maintains a very high quality. But
I think it peaks at the castle, personally.
Maybe
that castle.
The castle's so good.
Mm.
And what are you talking about? Come on, how can you not like jet skis?
I mean, the jet skis itself are very funny. I do like the jet skis.
Jet skis.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard because Final Fantasy is like a 110-hour game, which is not an excuse for having lulls, but...
I think inherently it's kind of hard because
How
one
is
is
it a 110-hour game? The game says 30 hours on how long to beat.
I spent a long time in that game, dude. I maxed out every materia.
I mean, inherently with an RPG...
You just sapped that game.
Inherently with an RPG, you can just spend...
No, yeah,
way more
I know.
than the average game, right?
Yeah.
No, I know. But so it's hard to compare because like one is a PS1 era RPG, one is like a PS2 era action game, right? Just inherently, they play very differently. They,
Sure.
The thing about you know, you could say a PS2 era action game, but like this game's being re-released still, and like I just think it really. I know Final Fantasy VII was also re-released recently, but like I feel like this game though like just holds up so well, and why it's been re-released like on just countless.
I mean, I would argue outside the visuals that FF7 ages extremely gracefully as well, though. Is the thing.
I'd agree with that.
This is hard. Tell me why FF7 should be above it.
Well, I think that because it's interesting because I love optional stuff in games. And Resident Evil 4 has in terms of the type of game it is, it might be unmatched. It's incredible. But there were so many things that I did in Final Fantasy VII that when I would do it, I wouldn't expect to be rewarded in the way I was, or I would see how much of a scope the game had to it. That like, you know, we talked about it when we first ranked it, but when you go to the Golden Saucer and you're like, man, this is a crazy area, like just all this that exists, and those level of surprises for me were more frequent, or there were more of them. I don't know if there's something more frequent because it's like I said, a longer game, but I had more of them, and I think those things stick with me in Final Fantasy VII a little bit more than I have with Resident Evil 4. There was stuff like with the lake and the fish monster and that boss that I didn't really love, like all things considered. But the first time you do it, there's a great spectacle.
That's fucking
but then
cool.
the second time I was like, all right, I'm sort of like just waiting for this thing to happen. So I mean, those little quabbles here and there with Resident Evil.
I feel like if we're gonna compare side content, Mercenaries has to come into play, and also the DLC mission for Ada. Was that DLC or was that just extra?
It was added to the PS2 version,
but that was also really.
And then it's on every subsequent version as well.
That was a good side extra mission.
That is a good side.
An extra one because there was already one with Ada, and then they added another one too.
And then I mean, and stuff like I love that they. I mean, I guess this is true because they have like the outfits and stuff too. But like I love stuff like Knights of the Round, right? It's just like this huge, extravagant, insane thing that unless you're a crazy person, you just never will find.
Fucking summon. Takes like 10 minutes long to finish.
I know, and every time I'm happy to sit through it because I bred that dang chocobo.
Every time I have to fucking press that button.
Oh boy.
I mean, I like the damage, but fuck.
If you guys don't mind, I wouldn't. Because I feel like as games, they're pretty comparable. Like they're very even, I think, right? But this is a weird question. You can push back if you don't like it. But what do you think had a bigger impact? Like maybe for its genre or for its generation, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know how to evaluate that.
I mean, it's hard. I know. No.
One thing I'm kind of interested in, not to look past Final Fantasy VII, but like, why does Ills want to put it above Odyssey? You know, because we haven't even questioned that.
Well, we haven't, but Will said if it's above FF7, it's above Odyssey. So I feel like you already lost that battle, Brandon.
Well, I mean, I could be convinced, maybe.
Okay. Well,
chipping away at my
I guess
power base.
it's weird because it's just that we had more shooters in the time frame post Resident Evil 4, so it iterated a lot more because there was just a lot more chances to.
But not the same kind of shooters.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like, because I think that, like...
This is a wholly different... I think it's a little... It's not comparable to just a shooter.
I mean,
There's
in some ways...
tactical movement, a lot more thought put into it.
Sure. I guess... and then, like, in FF7, like, RPGs just sort of are, like... They are more... like, it still is in some ways the house that Final Fantasy VII built, but that's also because RPGs tend to not... They haven't been the big genre, basically, since Final Fantasy VII, you know? Like, RPGs in the PS1 generation were huge, but PS2 onwards, they become more niche as time went on, I would say. So it's a little harder.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I love RPGs. I'm like, I don't want to fucking diminish RPGs, but
no.
This game is just like fucking almost perfect. Like the one thing I don't like about this game, which is kind of because of the time frame it came out in, was the quick time event.
Yeah.
That's
some of those later ones do get very hard.
I feel like they worked better in Resident Evil 4 than they do. Like, this was like when quick time events were starting to become a thing, and it wasn't like the whole fucking game is going to be like a quick
it's just
time
that one boss battle, Krauser.
Yeah,
it's just
Krauser.
all quick time events.
Yeah, and it's pretty tight, the time frames on it.
Well, which of those two do you guys think has higher highs?
Fuck.
Like, I can't answer.
Yeah,
this.
I know. That's yeah. I'm sorry. I mean, the village is incredible. The village is my favorite part of that game, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
But there was
higher highs. Oh my god.
Remember when you get locked in a house with Lewis? Remember that?
That was cool.
The part I always think about when I think about this game is like, Resident Evil 4. I mean, when you're entering the castle and there's like the shrouded guys, you know, the guys with the hooded figures, or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have like ballistae, and like you get into that huge room, that grand room, like lakes on the side. And they're like all coming at you with shields. Oh man, that part is so iconic. I'm like, I think about that part in the game all the time.
I think about that one boss battle where you're in a fucking cage that's falling.
That's a cool boss.
Oh
and
yeah. Oh
that
man, that guy's
was so stressful,
scary.
but like also so cool.
That guy's fucking scary.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm fine. We're gonna go forever. And
Yeah, I mean,
I'm willing to put it above it.
Okay.
I feel like
does it go above Odyssey?
Well, that's a question for Brandon.
I'm willing to say. Okay. I mean, if you guys both agree, I can agree.
Yeah,
with
I do. I mean, I played Odyssey really recently, and I feel like while it's very fun to play, it's just there's also kind of like a lot of empty space sometimes. Sure. It's just, you know, open world games. There's always a lot of empty space.
The more sandbox style versus
yeah. But I don't hate the game for it. It's just you know, it drags on a little bit. You know, just movement wise, is sometimes you're just moving from place to place. That's just what I think.
Will above Odyssey? Yes? No? Maybe?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have a place for Resident Evil 4.
Number 4 for Resident Evil 4.
Number 4
can never be
how
number
apt.
So there it is.
We almost have Final Fantasy 7 down to 7 too.
Oh, we gotta find that balance. But one more.
What is
and then leave it like that
sweet
forever.
spot?
Then nothing is allowed to go above 7 after
But
that.
Octopath will never be back at number 8.
No, it's long gone, brother.
It's way gone.
Yeah, so there we go. That is the list for this week. Thank you for your participation. Surrounding it, we're not going to mention 1 and 2. Number 3, Dark Souls. Number 4, Resident Evil 4. Number 5, Super Mario Odyssey. Number 6, Final Fantasy 7. There you go. That is the podcast. Once again, thank you all. Thank you for participating. Thank you for listening. Those of you who are listening out there. Moose, because you did not get to participate in the ranking and you had to watch us put a game that you never played over a game you love, you can get the final phrase. But while you think on that, plugs. So we are here every Monday on your podcast feed of choice, unless it's Spotify, in which case we can't Spotify's fault, not ours. But every other Thursday, you can find also on this feed the Jump Up Supercast Game Club, where this last week we uploaded a second sight episode. You may not remember what that was, but it was a GameCube PS2 game that is was wild.
And
Xbox. You're right. I'm sorry. Don't want to disrespect the Xbox. And that is one I never heard of before we played it. So that was an interesting experience.
And you didn't even get to,
but yeah, I largely agreed with what you guys said. I listened to it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I also want to mention that when I host, I also talk about the fact that everybody, no matter what your gender is, thinks about video games on the show.
That's true. Thank you for making that clear. But that is, hey, guess what we did this week? We streamed. So if you go to twitch.tv/jumpupsupercast, you can find, I think, the archive of Brandon and I racing Donkey Kong Country. We both beat the game. We'll not say who won, because you need to watch.
Okay.
I will.
Yeah, I know. Brandon will be more than happy to tell you.
Ask me on Twitter.
You can ask Brandon on Twitter how badly he beat me at twitter.com/jumpupsupercast. And that is also where you can get notifications for when episodes like this one go live and we would go streaming. Muzamil, you said last week that you were going to start streaming on Fridays. Will they be able to find an archive? We'll record this on Thursdays. Will they be able to find an archive of your stream on Monday? Oh, so he's locking it in. If it's not there, he's a liar.
Locking it in. Yeah. Croc, the Legend of the Gobos, tomorrow.
Oh,
be there.
Oh, shit.
And I guess not tomorrow for you people listening, but
every Friday is the thing,
archive is there.
We are streaming Croc, the Legend of the Gobos.
Fridays.
Now I know what I'm doing my Friday.
Oh, baby. Waste of time. What are you playing? Play a good game.
Moose lost the bet. He has
contractually obligated.
So there you go. That is it. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at /Jump Up Supercast. Put that at the end of those URLs. But that is the podcast for this week. Now, Muzamil, your final phrase.
You know, we at the Jump Up Supercast get a rap for being huge fans of Nintendo, right? We're some would say Nintendo fanboys, right? But I would like to point out, in the top 10 of the Jump Up Supercast game list, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 10 games that are not published by Nintendo. It's 40% of the list. Alright? Now, don't flip that number around, because that paints a different picture. But 40% of the list is not from Nintendo. So, you know, we are fair and balanced. So, that's all, folks.